Hello everyone, Thomas Fleming here again. Well, I'm in a rocking chair, which you can expect me to find. I'm up at the Visitor Center because I'm trying to upload tomorrow's video, and I have to sit and wait, so I'm just going ahead and I'll give you the next day's video at the same time. It's raining. It's been raining all day. It rained yesterday. It is really difficult to try to get outdoors and film like you're used to when I'm normally on here. But you've seen me here before, and I've even done a live video from here too, because I can use the free Wi-Fi at the Visitor Center. This is in the evening. They've gone home, and it is getting dark on me, so I have to get this done before it gets too late. Anyhow, we've talked about, equipping yourself. Well, the only way to equip yourself is through Jesus. There's no other way. And so I'm going to look at, Jesus described himself in 7 different ways. It's important to know all 7, but we're going to look at 3 of them right now. And he says so, and if you read in John, it's all red letter, Jesus talking. He describes himself. These are, there's 7 characters of God that we know about, and Jesus is explaining how he lines up with that. And he's talking to the people around him. And I'm even going to read one of the narratives, which I sometimes do out of my Bible, one of the commentaries. All right, let me get my glasses on. Okay. Well, Jesus talking. Turn with me to John 6:35. And as long as I can read, I will read. It's getting dark. The lights are on here. Okay. 6:35. And Jesus said to them, I am the bread of life. He who comes to me shall never hunger, and he who believes in me shall never thirst. But I said to you that you have seen me, and yet you do not believe. He just fed 5,000. They should have believed. All that the Father gives me will come to me, and the one who comes to me I will by no means cast out. For I have come down from heaven not to do my will, but to do the will of him who sent me. Obviously, this is God taking man's form, but he's talking as if he's not talking about himself. He's referring to God and him being separate, but they're the same. They didn't understand that back then. All right, I'm going to read some of the commentary here. Jesus is the bread of life is the title. Jesus has just fed the 5,000 people with 5 loaves and 2 small fish. That was in John 6:1-14. When the people went looking for him the next day, they were following their stomachs more than their hearts. Jesus saw beyond their desire and another free meal. He knew that they weren't interested in following him for who he was, but for what he could do for them. So he teaches them, I am the bread of life. You want bread? I am the bread of life. They didn't understand. A lot of what went on back then, they didn't understand. For one, they didn't have the Spirit to explain things to them. And they didn't really know who he was. He never really came out and said who he was, except for the closest in his circle. But the people were just happy to come along and get healed and get fed, and there are people like that all over the world today who won't come to Jesus unless they get something out of it. The wrong way. When Jesus said, I'm the bread of life, he wasn't just making a statement about salvation. He also was making a statement about his deity. When Moses met God at the burning bush, he asked God for a name that he could take back to the Israelites in Egypt. God said, I am, and sent him. That was his answer. Whenever they asked, who did you see? I am. He is the great I am. It means he just exists. He's omnipresent. He's everywhere. He's God. Everywhere you go, God can be with you. The Spirit is in you. Everywhere you go, you can commune with God through the Spirit because of Jesus. All right, I want to look at one of the other natures. I'm trying to work this with my gloves on. Okay. John 7. I guess it starts in 12. And Jesus spoke to them again. I am the light of the world. So he's the bread and the water, and now he's the light. He's everything, but he's breaking it up for him because he's keeping it simple. He who follows me shall not walk in darkness, but have the light of life. When we go out in the world, we may be able to see clearly, physically, but we have no idea what's out there. We don't know who's out there. When I walk in the woods, I don't know who I'm going to meet or what I'm going to meet. We're in darkness of what's out there. That doesn't mean that there's things bad out there. It may be nothing but good, but we don't know. God knows everything. He's the light. He will shine a light on something that needs to be exposed. He will shine a light on someone to be your friend. He'll shine a light. I got to keep my light on. It's going dim. Without him, we're running blind. But he will do the path for us. And again, it lines up with the nature of God. As we just read, Moses talked to a burning bush, light. Light drew him to the bush. He wouldn't have known the bush was there to, talk to him unless he saw the light. The Magi came from the east when they saw the light in the sky, the star. God uses light to draw our attention. And now over to 10. John 10, starting in verse 7. Then Jesus said to them again, most assuredly I say to you, I am the door of the sheep. We know he's the shepherd and that we're the sheep. He's the door. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone invite me in, I'll come in and eat with them and they with me. Revelation 3:20. But he is the door. All who enter, whoever came before me, it's getting dark, sorry, are thieves and robbers. They bid the sheep, but the sheep did not hear them. I am the door. If anyone enters by me, he will be saved. The thief does not come except to steal and to kill and to destroy. I have come that they may have life and that they may have it more abundantly. Familiar verse. He's the door. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd gives his life for the sheep. But a hireling, he who is not the shepherd, one who does not own the sheep, sees the wolf coming and leaves the sheep and flees. And the wolf catches the sheep and scatters them. The hireling flees because he is a hireling and does not care about the sheep. Speaking to these people in very plain stories, because that's the kind of people he was talking to. I am the good shepherd, and I know my sheep. I am known by my own. The sheep know him. We know him. As the Father knows me, even I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. And other sheep I have, which are not of this fold, them who I must bring. Will they hear my voice? We're the other sheep. He's coming for his Jewish sheep, but we're the other sheep. We're the adopted sheep. He comes to give his own life, to lay down his life. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down of myself. This is pretty important stuff. Jesus talking about laying his life down for the sheep. Well, he laid his life down for us. Adam and Eve separated from God when they sinned, when they were tricked by the devil, who has not changed his ways one bit. He's still out there tricking people. Because we're separated, we don't have the Spirit in us until we're saved. There's a whole world out there of people who are sheep without a shepherd, sheep without the Savior. And they don't know. They're looking for a shepherd. We're built to look for God. You say, well, what about people who are in the backwoods of some fifth world country? We're built to look for God. They know about God, even if they don't know who and what he is. We're designed to be connected to God. We're not designed to be without God. God created Adam to be with God. He created Eve to be with Adam. We're not meant to be in this world alone, defenseless, sheep without a shepherd. We're not meant to be that. Christ came down here to fix that, to restore our connection to God. The whole world has the opportunity to take the free gift. If they choose not to, the outcome is unspeakable. Torment, pain, eternity. No. You don't want that when it's free for the taking. Satan's going to still do his normal thing. He's going to deceive and lie and tell you to follow him. Well, we're not going to follow Satan, but we're going to follow his clone, his son, if you will. The Antichrist is going to come down here and lead the world down the wrong path. He's not the true shepherd, but he's going to look like him. He's the Antichrist. He's the opposite of Christ. He's Satan's Messiah for us, not God's Messiah. Jesus will protect us. You won't find that protection. The protection that the Antichrist will offer will be fleeting. It's like when Satan tempted Jesus and said, I'll give you the whole world. It would have been just for the lifetime of Jesus. And he didn't live that long. But even if he lived a full life, even if he lived 120 years, that is not the price you want to pay for an eternity that follows. You need to sign up now with Jesus, and then you've got an eternity worth looking forward to. It's a very simple process. Jesus paid the price. You can't work your way to heaven. Now, these are just 3 of the ways that he identified himself. I'll get to the other 4 eventually. The key is that we need to make sure we're saved and that our friends are saved. And then we got to follow the things that we're supposed to do. We can do works for God, but only after we're saved. Works won't do you any good prior to that. I need to take my glasses off, so I'm not reading. James talks about works. You can read the book of James if you want to know about that. But there's nothing you can do on earth aside from accepting the gift of Jesus Christ. He fulfilled the law. There had to be a sacrifice, a blood sacrifice. They did it every year. The high priest would take the blood sacrifice into the Holy of Holies and sprinkle it on the mercy seat, on the Ark of the Covenant. And that would buy him time until the next year, when they had to repeat the process, because nothing was permanent. And it was a very dangerous job for that high priest. They literally tied a rope around his ankle in case he took sin inside with him that he didn't confess to God, he would die. And they'd have to pull him out. Now, I don't know that we have any stories of that in the Bible where they had to do that, but they did tell us that they tied ropes around him, so we know about that. The ark was powerful. And there's an ark in heaven. Everything that we've got down here is a mirror of what's in heaven. We're going to get a new Jerusalem eventually, because the one that's there now is nothing like what it should be, and it's been destroyed so many times, you can't find anything. If you've ever been there, you know, this is the rock where Jesus stood and said this, and this is the rock where Jesus stood and said this. You don't know. They're guessing. They got a place where he supposedly hung on the cross, and they got another place where he was supposedly born, and another place where there was the temple and the threshing floor. They may or may not be right. It's been destroyed so many times, there's no way to know. Yeah, you can go ahead and pick a spot. We pick Christmas to celebrate his birthday, but that's not his birthday. It's okay. Thinking about God and Jesus is the important thing. You can go look at these places if you want. They're very ornate. They're, talk about idol worship. I'd much rather go out in the desert and look at a ruin of a synagogue or a house or something. Capernaum has a nice place to look at that they're digging on. But Jerusalem itself, yeah. And even if they had the temple, Jesus did away with the temple. You don't need it. The only thing the temple is going to do is help unite the Jews back together again. And God's going to put up with it. But the Antichrist, he's going to use it for himself, not for God. We know the future. The good news is we don't have to deal with the wrath that's coming. We're not subject to wrath. Whether it's the seal of the bowl judgments or the trumpet judgments, or the seal and the trumpet judgments or the bowl judgments. The bowl judgments are the wrath of God. The other two are just kind of what man deserves coming out of man's work on this earth. Our rapture is in the beginning. I talk about it all the time. Revelation 12. Satan comes to earth to attack the child, which is us. We're raptured. And the word harpazo is used there, and that's where you go to Latin for rapturo. There's so many false teachings on that. There is no rapture because there's no word rapture in the Bible. There's no Trinity in the Bible either. When you hear omnipresent, that's not in the Bible either. The English Bible or the Greek Bible. You have to go to the Latin one. It's out there, people. But people that don't know get out there and tell you something. You've got to check these people out. My last video, I gave you some examples of people that you can trust. Make sure you're listening to somebody you can trust who uses the proper way to teach the Bible. You have to use the Bible to teach the Bible. If you need another book, you're in the wrong religion. The Jews began to ignore the Bible, and they were using the Talmud and the Mishnah, books written by the priests, to explain the Bible. That's why they didn't recognize Jesus, because they didn't have him defined well enough in those two books. The scriptures are all full of stories about Jesus coming, but they missed it. He tells them who they are, who he is. He even quotes them the verses, but they're not familiar with them because they're reading the other books that explain the Bible. Of course, they didn't have Bibles. Every person didn't own a Bible back then. Only the elites had enough money to buy a book. And it really wasn't a book. It might have been a scroll or whatever. They kept them in the churches. The people didn't have those. They were expensive. You didn't really have Bibles until the Gutenberg press. Then you got Bibles. And of course, they didn't have the New Testament. They were living it. People saw all the stuff that we have in the New Testament. There are witnesses that saw all that. That's why we have the books and the letters from these witnesses. It's very easy to see what the plan was now, looking back. But they didn't believe it back then. Even his followers were weak in that area. Jesus chided them on it a few times. He even told Peter, "Get behind me, Satan," when he came out with the wrong answer. But yet he said, "He's the rock I'm going to build my church." He knew who Peter was, and he knew he just threw out a flippant answer and didn't think about it. We can do the same thing, so be careful. I try to give you Bible verses to back up what I'm saying, because you need to check out me and anybody else you listen to. If they teach the Bible, have your Bible out. Take notes, and then go back and read if you don't understand it. And again, I keep telling everybody, we have a resource that nobody in the world has ever had. Google it, and then look it up. And when you find a Bible verse, don't read it there, because sometimes you can find a bad translation. Read your book. Read your Bible. It depends on when it was written, who wrote it. There are issues. King James has issues. American Standard has issues. We pretty much know where the issues are. Nothing in the core of what we need to know is wrong. But there's some other stuff that gets off on it. That's why I don't worry about if we don't agree on the future, on the prophets. If we don't agree on it, that's okay. If you've got the gospel, if you've got Jesus, if you're saved, then everything else is just academic. Yeah, it would be nice to know when these things are going to happen, but it doesn't matter for us as Christians. We're raptured in the beginning before all the bad stuff happens. And we're looking forward to that soon. We don't know when it is. People keep predicting. It doesn't matter. We know it's coming up. Okay. I'm going to end this a little early so I can tack on one of my short walking videos, let you see what nature looks like. It's getting dark anyway. Okay, until we meet in the clouds, God bless. Looking at a typical site here. They're marked. You've got power, and there's water right there. Every site has a table and a fire ring. They clean them out in between so they're ready to go for the next camper. Get out here and take it in. And this little shepherd's hook-like thing, people hang their trash from that hook. That's not what that's for. That's to hang a lantern on. I guess they don't have lanterns that much anymore. And we're real close to the road. And there's another gate going that way. More camping, but those are on platforms. And they close the main public gates at night and open them up in the morning. And that restroom is for the public section. You can come into a state park for a day just during the day and just get a parking pass and come down like here. There's places to have get-togethers, which you can rent, or you can just use the tables and barbecues down here. Or you can do like I do and stay. You need a tent or an RV. RVs are cheaper. And while I'm doing my video, you may hear gunshots. It's still hunting season in Georgia until January 8th. The park was just closed for 2 days because they had hunting on the state park property itself. The deer naturally multiply, and if they get too many, it's actually dangerous because they can get sick. And they can also starve, not enough food. Here's one of the trailheads. And they're all marked. This one's a short one. You can go along the river trail to the tower. There's a wooden tower down here that they built. It's not as nice as this all the way. You can see how it turns away and turns into just a nice clean walkway. And you can see that there's white marks on the trees. That's the white trail when you get your map. All right. I'm still having fun here, but you guys need to get out here and enjoy this. Doesn't matter where you're at. Somewhere there's an outdoor area you can go to. In the United States, all states have state parks. Got somebody leaving the public area. And you can see there's some areas there if you got to get together, have a bunch of family people come down. But there's also just picnic tables scattered throughout. The river is just beyond as far as we can see. I'm going to my swinging seat that I normally go to. All right. Get out here and enjoy it. God created all this just for us. Blessings.